Call the council meeting to order tonight. We have a quorum present. Tonight we'll be led in invocation by Pastor Don Roush from the Church of St. Matthew the Martyr here in Sioux Falls. After the invocation, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, I would just ask everyone to please rise.
Let us pray. Sovereign God, source of all truth and wisdom, we ask your blessing upon this evening's deliberations. So guide and direct those here who have been charged with the management of our city, that all might benefit from the decisions reached and that the common good might be served. Keep us ever mindful that all our citizens are your children, and that the poor, the marginalized, and the outcast are always of your primary concern. Make justice and compassion our aim. Send your Spirit among us so that our discussions might be fruitful, that disagreements be cordial, and in the end, your wisdom prevail. Glory to you, O God, now and forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a proclamation for Veterans Day. Is there anybody from the veterans organizations that are here tonight? We didn't think there's, but I'll just read that from here and read the proclamation, and we'll get it to them later, at a later date. And it reads, whereas November 11th, 1918 marked the cessation of World War I, whereas on March 13, 1938, Congress declared the 11th of November each year will be a legal holiday, a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace. Whereas the year 2007 finds the United States continuing to work for world peace, but with her fighting men and women involved in conflicts affecting the peace in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other parts of the Middle East. Whereas today there are more than 26 million veterans who served in the armed forces in times of peace and war. Now, therefore, I, Dave Munson, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2007, as Veterans Day in Sioux Falls, and urge all citizens to recognize the sacrifices of our veterans through the appropriate ceremonies and prayers. Then I would just ask, we have the Webelos Pack 152 Boy Scouts and Boy Scout Troop 251 from Sioux Falls Lutheran, and the leader is Mark DeGraw. Would you please stand and be recognized? And thank you very much for coming down and joining us tonight. We really appreciate the fact of what you do. Let's move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Let's move. Is there a second?
Second, Benninger.
Benninger seconded. Is there any further motions to the consent agenda? Seeing no further motions, all in favor of approving the consent agenda will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson? Yes. Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninger?
Yes.
All members present have voted. The consent agenda has been approved 8-0. Now, is there a motion to approve the regular agenda?
I so move, Knutson.
Knutson moved. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Is there further motions on the regular agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the regular agenda will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson? Yes. Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninger?
Yes.
All members present have voted. The regular agenda has been approved 8-0. This is a time that we set aside anybody wishes to address the council during public input for 5 minutes. We just ask that you come up and you give your name and then your address and then address the council. So is anybody in the audience, would they like to come forward and address the council at this time at public input? I see no one that is coming forward, so we will move into the regular agenda with item number 18.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Appendix B, the zoning ordinance by adding land uses to commercial zoning districts. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Good evening. I'm Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services, along with Steve Randall tonight to present these items that have been reviewed by the Planning Commission. This is an item that is being asked to amend our C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district by adding a limited retail trade and services uses within this zoning district. This zoning district is utilized very seldom throughout the city, but it is one that we've used for small, non-residential developments adjacent to neighborhood areas. This zoning district was established a number of years ago. It does allow limited office and other light uses such as that. We've had developers and even some neighbors say that we would like to have more services available to us in the neighborhood. And so this amendment would allow retail trade and services except restaurants that have a building size of under 5,000 square feet. And that's consistent with the office uses that are also allowed if they're under 5,000 square feet. And by allowing this use, we believe that it could be compatible with a residential neighborhood. But in some cases, when you do allow restaurant uses, it can have increased traffic and odor and delivery services and other things that we found are objectionable to neighbors. So this is a compromise that we've reviewed with the Planning Commission and is being recommended for approval tonight.
Questions of Mike on number 18. Kermit?
Yeah, Mike, I don't know, I think a lot of people like restaurants. And, you know, some of these other businesses that might be allowed could also generate traffic, too.
Again, this is our most restrictive commercial zoning district. And by limiting the building size to less than 5,000 square feet, it does reduce the potential impact on neighborhoods. And there are other commercial zoning districts that are still available to a developer or to a neighborhood that would allow more intense type commercial uses. So by limiting restaurants, it doesn't mean that we can never have them close by, but just within this particular zoning district.
Further questions of Mike on 18. Others that wish to address the council on item number 18? Close it to council discussion or action. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval. Jamison.
Jamison moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments on that motion? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of the motion to approve item 18 and vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson. Yes. Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 18 has been approved. Item 19.
Second reading, major amendment, 2007-0904, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Chapter 15.45.070, Planned Development District, Subarea 1, Beetle Greenway, PD, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised subarea regulations and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls at East 14th Street to allow for institutional medium-density offices, limited industrial uses, and high-density institutional commercial park. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is a correction to our zoning ordinance, and it pertains to the Beetle Greenway Planned Development Zoning District. This particular amendment would add the remaining portion of Block 1, which is located south of 14th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue. That property currently has a multi-unit apartment building on it. There is room for another apartment building on this site. And so this amendment will allow the rest of that block to be developed in the future for high-density residential.
Questions of Mike on item number 19? Others that wish to address the council on item 19? If not, is there a motion to approve?
I so move. Knutson.
Knutson moved. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Litz. Further comments, motions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item 19, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
Item 19 has been approved 8-0. Item 20.
Second reading, Major Amendment 2007-0908, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending Chapter 15.45.070, Plan Development Districts, Heather Ridge 2 Plan Development District, allowing changes in land use as reflected in the revised sub-area regulations, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls at Western Avenue and South Grand Arbor Court to reduce the overall density of the development in Heather Ridge 2 by reducing the size of sub-area B and increasing the size of sub-area A by the same amount. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
It will be noted that Councilmember Jameson has been excused from item number 20. Go ahead, Mike.
This property is on the east side of Western Avenue and north of 85th Street. It is part of Heather Ridge 2 development. It's approximately 18 acres of land area that's being impacted by tonight's action. The developer Van Busker Companies is requesting an amendment to reduce the size of sub-area B, which currently allows multifamily, and increasing the size of sub-area A, which allows for twin homes or townhomes. And the increase in the twin home sub-area would be from 5.7 to 11 acres, and the decrease in the multifamily sub-area would be from approximately 10.2 to about 7 acres. So the overall effect is to reduce the potential number of housing units that would be developed in this area.
Questions of Mike on item number 20? Others that wish to address the council on item number 20? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve, Litz.
Second?
Second, Benega.
Benega seconded. Further discussion, is there any motions? Did you want to make, was there a motion to amend, or is that just the?
No, we're fine.
Okay. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of the motion to approve item 20, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 20 has been approved. Item 21.
Second reading, rezone 2007-0631, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at West 77th Street and South Minnesota Avenue from the AG Agricultural District to the O General Office District to construct multiple medical office buildings, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is about 1.5 acres of land area. It is on the east side of Minnesota Avenue and the north side of 77th Street. And this zoning would make it consistent with our land use amendment that we've approved and is being proposed for future medical office uses on this property.
Questions of Mike on item number 21? Others that wish to address the council on item number 21? Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval, Jameson.
Jameson moved. Is there a second?
Brown seconds.
Brown seconds. Further comments? Bob? Let's.
Question, Mike, are there any renderings of what this building is going to look like at this time?
We have not specifically seen an actual proposal for the building at this time, no. We're being told that it's probably going to be more than one building and that it'll be office and medical office related. But I don't have a specific rendering that I can present to you tonight.
Very good. I guess considering the location, my concern would be that it fit in with the residences that are on it.
What we've seen in other offices in that area is that they have the pitched roof and building materials that are very compatible with residential uses, and I would expect the same thing will happen here as we go through that review process.
I'm aware of that. Thank you, Mike.
Gerald?
Mike, following Bob's comments, is there any bufferings between this commercial office space and the residential?
This, the property directly to the east of this is a detention pond area with a walking path around it. Office uses are a buffer that we've used in other neighborhoods, so this does not allow any commercial development. It would strictly be office.
So are there landscaping requirements?
Yes, there'll be landscaping and setback requirements that they'll have to comply with.
Thank you.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the council on item 21, got a motion been made and seconded, no further comments? All in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item number 21 has been approved 8-0. Item 22.
Second reading, rezone 2007-0834, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at 41st Street and Grinnell Avenue from the RD Residential District to the 41st Street 10 Plan Development District to add 15 feet to the depth of the lot to construct a 134-unit townhome project in 2 phases on a portion of Sub-Area A and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
I'm not sure if my ordinance is wrong or my agenda is wrong, but is that item 23 or 24?
22.
It is 22, okay. I had mine out of order, sorry. This is an amendment that we're adding 15 feet to the north of this proposed townhome development, which is located on the north side of 41st Street and east of Ellis Road. The developers, after the initial zoning boundaries were approved, discovered that there's about a 15-foot utility easement along 41st Street, and so they now have to shift their entire site plan that same amount of distance to the north. And so what we're asking to do tonight is to amend the boundaries and rezone the north 15 feet so that they can shift their building plans and accommodate that easement.
Questions of Mike on item number 22? Others that wish to address the council on item number 22? Is there a motion to approve?
I so move Knutson.
Knutson moved. Is there a second?
Second. Brown.
Brown seconds. Further comments? Not? All in favor of the motion to approve item 22, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present vote. Item 22 has been approved 8-0. Item 23.
Second reading, rezone 2007-0912, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at northeast corner of 73rd Street, Future and South Cliff Avenue from the AG Agricultural District to the Shadow Creek Plan Development District to rezone, allowing for a sports medicine training facility and possible future clinic, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This property is approximately 2 acres in size on the east side of Cliff Avenue and the north side of the future 73rd Street. The applicant is Sanford Health. The proposed use of this property would be adjacent to the existing USF Athletic Stadium and would be used for a sports medicine training facility. And at least our preliminary discussions have been that this would look something similar to what most people would call the golf dome that used to be behind Shopko and is now being used for a similar type of use. And then there's also room on this site for a possible clinic. So those are the uses that are being proposed on this property, and the recommendation is to approve this zoning change.
Questions? Bob Jameson.
What's the plans for the land to the south? I think there's a residence right to the south of this.
There's, if we can flip to that, the land use. Yeah. This property, we've talked about if that's going to be additional institutional or some office-type development. We really haven't pinned down any specific plans at this time, and we expect that there are going to be requests to bring that into the city and look at some future zoning changes. But the property on the west side of Cliff Avenue is going to be developing with some church and also office and some commercial development.
Okay.
So we think that whatever happens to the south of here will be compatible with what's going on in the rest of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Further questions of Mike on item number 23? Others that wish to address the council on item number 23? Not. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval, Benega.
Benega moves. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Let's second it. Further comments? Kermit?
Yeah, I've got a question for Gary. I just want to clarify, Gary, if I can go ahead and vote on this, because this is properties adjacent to USF property. So,
I do not see a conflict on this.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Further comments on item number 23? We've got a motion, been made and seconded. All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present have voted. Item 23 has been approved 8-0. Item 24.
Second reading, rezone 2007-0811, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property at North Dubuque Avenue and East 6th Street from AG Agricultural District to RS2 Residential, the RC Recreation Conservation, and the Wild Meadows Planned Development District for future residential development, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is about 38 acres of land area on the north side of 6th Street, East 6th Street, and east of Dubuque Avenue. The City Council has previously taken action on this to approve the annexation and the land use amendment. And this is a rezoning tonight. Later on the agenda, item 30 will include the proposed development plan for this property as well. The zoning is in conformance with the land use amendments that we've looked at before. There'll be about a 5-acre recreation conservation area that's being discussed as a possible future neighborhood park site. There'll be approximately 22 acres of single-family residential. And then at the very south end is just over 10 acres of future multifamily residential development. And this is being recommended for approval.
Questions of Mike on item 24, Kermit?
Yeah, Mike, is the applicant here tonight by any chance? Can I ask the applicant a question?
Sure.
Justin Banworth, Parapasu Companies, 4999 France Avenue South, Suite 248.
Yeah, Justin, we've talked about this neighborhood park before at a previous meeting.
Yes.
And our understanding is you're willing to go ahead and give up this, I think it's 5 acres for a park, is that right?
Just slightly over, yes.
Slightly over 5 acres. I just wanted to clarify the amount of money that 5 acres is worth and how much you're donating to the city then.
We're still kind of in discussion with the Parks Department on that, trying to come up with the best way to go about that. There's been some talk of sort of a cost share to bring that, to program that park quicker than the capital improvements program would allow, and that would require dollars on our part. That has been kind of the discussion we're gearing towards thus far.
Okay. The only discussion we've had so far is on how much that land is worth right now. How much would that 5 acres be worth?
Off top, without looking at the appraisal, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you.
I think we heard a figure of $175,000. Does that sound right?
Again, I'm not sure. I don't want to throw a figure out there and have it be completely off.
These other discussions you're having where you would be contributing more money to get this project underway, what kind of money are we talking about you contributing?
Well, when I had talked with the Parks Department, they had thrown out a figure for a neighborhood park. It would probably cost somewhere in the neighborhood of about a quarter of $1,000,000.
So is that how much?
That wouldn't include the land.
Beg your pardon?
That wouldn't include the land. That would be our contribution.
So you're
for-
going to contribute the land, and we've heard the number $175,000 for the land. But then also this $250,000, would you be contributing that also?
If we went ahead and programmed the park ourselves, that would require, we've been talking with the city about possibly having money set aside through the city to purchase that land, where we would pay to program the park and put, a jungle gym and courts and practice fields and do the grading and that sort of thing, whereas the city would then work towards purchasing that property from us.
Okay. So you might be putting up $250,000 initially, and then maybe later on the city then would purchase the land?
Just the land, yeah.
Just the land.
That's been our discussion so far.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
Further questions of Mike, Kevin, or Jason?
Yes.
I realize you don't have a fixed dollar amount on the land for the
Sure.
parkland, but can you tell me what the remaining lots are worth with and without a park?
The remaining lots? Well,
residential
they're all
lots.
remaining. I would say, we'll be looking at somewhere, in the 40s for those lot prices. If
But
that's,
without a park, would they be less valuable?
it's tough to say. Personally, I would think so. I would think so.
And how many lots?
We have 180
Thank you.
ballpark.
Further questions? Thank you very much.
I guess I do have one other question. Do you have a timeline when you're going to probably finalize all of this with the city parks department?
We're working towards having that done before the end of the year. They've set that as kind of a critical date to work with, so.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Others who wish to address the council on item number 24? Come forward, give your name and address, please.
James Moore, 708 North Dubuque. And my objection, I guess, is with access of the people when this development is developed, is the access is all going to be, in the first phase, running back to Dubuque Avenue, and the natural tendency for most everybody to work is going to be causing a traffic problem, I believe, at Dubuque and Brennan Drive when, the normal workday begins. With people leaving that area, there's only two access areas, and both of them basically access to Dubuque and then to 6th Street. So I'm here to voice a concern about the excessive traffic on Dubuque Street with only that area exiting to Dubuque.
Okay, questions? Thank you. Mike, you want to?
I think we can probably address this a little clearer with item 30, but I'll just tell you now that, first of all, Dubuque Avenue has been designed as a collector street, and so that's the function that it serves, is to funnel traffic within the adjoining development onto the arterial streets. We're working with this developer on the street layout, and as you'll see when we come up to item 30, that there is going to be a future connection to the east of this property with another future collector street that will extend from Madison down to the south. And so eventually there will be another option for traffic to get north and south through that area, as opposed to all of it going on Dubuque. When that will happen, obviously, is going to depend on how soon that property to the east develops. But with our major street plan, we do have plans for not only Dubuque, but also for another north-south collector that will extend to the east of this property. But there's no doubt that with this total build-out that it will increase traffic on Dubuque, just like it would other collector streets like Bonson Avenue. And so we're going to work with the developer and the property owners to look at how we can disperse that traffic as much as possible. When you get down to 6th Street, you can see that there is a jog there, and then it goes over to Foss Avenue, so it's not a straight through shot, and so that will help slow down the traffic. We've seen that work in other places, but I cannot obviously guarantee that there won't be more traffic on Dubuque Avenue, but we're going to work with this property owner and other property owners to try to provide future other alternatives for traffic access in and out of this development area.
Questions of Mike? Kermit?
Yeah, Mike, I think this is going to pass tonight by an 8-0 vote. But after this passes, let's suppose the developer says, I've changed my mind on that 5-acre park. I don't want to have a 5-acre park. What happens then?
The city comprehensive plan is really kind of our guiding policy on trying to establish neighborhood parks generally within about a half a mile of all new residential areas. So that policy, which has been adopted by the city council, is one that we're trying to implement with this proposed development. And the 5 acres is being zoned for recreation conservation tonight. So if for some reason negotiations would totally break down and we couldn't come to any agreement on how that land would be acquired or how it would be developed for a park, the applicant would have to come back through and amend the zoning to allow it to be used for some other purpose besides recreation conservation.
Further questions of Mike on item number 24? Come forward and give your name and your address, please.
Fred O'Neill, 316 North Foss. My concern is he mentioned Foss. Now, the little coming down Dubuque, does he plan on dumping that traffic out of that housing project down Foss? We've already got an interstate highway going through there, meaning Foss. It's just like a racetrack now. And so if they bring that from Madison and that traffic can come all the way from Madison to Walmart, it'll just be a zoom. I called the zoning and talked to some lady down there, and she enlightened me that when I asked her anyway, that there was no plan on that Foss coming straight through or any outlet coming out of that housing project except Dubuque. And she talked about the High Line coming from Menards, which there's no housing over there. So if they would stick to that, coming from Madison straight down to Menards, that is a straight shot, and there's nothing over there. It wouldn't bother anybody, but if he shoots it down Foss, or as the other gentleman concerned, I don't blame him, coming down Dubuque, if them are the outlets, it doesn't just empty that housing project, it empties everybody on the Canterbury Heights, all the way out to the other Pine Woods, Brandon, anybody in that other direction, and all that housing is going out there. All those people going to Menards, Walmart, Culver's, anything that's being built on 10th Street, you're dumping all that traffic right down the chute, right into all of us that live there. And we didn't buy property there to turn around and have somebody come along and build this thing and then just dump it on the rest of us. I mean, where's our rights?
Questions? Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Again, I'll just reiterate that both Foss Avenue and Dubuque are collector streets, and they're designed to carry the traffic through the neighborhood. This particular development will allow the extension of 6th Street farther to the east, which will eventually connect to Highline Avenue and take you down to Arrowhead Parkway. So there is going to be additional access points with this development and other adjacent development in the future. It's not going to happen immediately, but it is going to eventually provide some relief to the people that are on Foss Avenue, because yes, that is a traffic carrier that's increasing quite a bit in recent years. But our major street plans do provide for, as I said earlier, another access point that will get you down to Arrowhead Parkway, and that's going to be Highline Avenue that will connect over to 6th Street. But it is going to take some additional development before that those street improvements are finalized. But that is in our long-range plan for this area.
Questions of Mike on item 24? Others that wish to address the council on item number 24? I see no one coming forward, so we will move forward with item 24 as a motion to approve.
Move for approval.
Kavanaugh, is this moved? Is there a second?
Second,
Let's second it. Further comments on the motion to approve? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item 24, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 24 has been approved 8-0. Item 25.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising the dollar amount to $25,000 for contracts involving purchase of materials, supplies, or equipment which are subject to competitive bids, and adding remodeling or additions to existing buildings found in Chapter 34.5, Purchasing.
Gene Roanhorse, Director of Finance for the City of Sioux Falls. This ordinance raises the amount of that it would take to go through the official bid process. Right now, we are at $15,000 that it would require us to go through the bid process, and moving to 25 would help streamline things. This change is just keeping us also in sync with the state laws. The state raised their limit to 25,000 last year. The main reason for the streamlining here and taking this out is we estimate that there would be somewhere between 40, maybe 50 transactions that would be dropped out of the system as far as official bids, and would be replaced, and they would drop into what we call our informal process, where we get quotes, but we don't go through the bid writing specs and 2 weeks advertising and things of that nature. We just use the 3 or 4 quotes and then take the best one.
Questions of Gene?
Gene, would this involve change orders on an existing bid?
Question I don't know about.
Scott Rust, Finance Office. Your question is change orders?
Let's say you had a bid that, for $500,000 for a building, and you had a change order for $24,900.
Per state law, we are required to get competitive bids over $25,000 for change orders.
I thought in 1997 the state changed it to $50,000.
Not that I know of.
Very good, thank you.
Further questions, Kevin?
Gene, there's, I see where you've taken the 15 and raised it to 25, but there is new language in here with regard to building or remodeling, isn't there? Can you explain that?
Nope.
I can explain that. The state, when they decided to raise the bid limits this summer, what their idea was to increase the bid limits for new buildings and remodeling, but leave public improvements alone. Public improvements will still stay at $25,000.
What were the previous bid limits for building and remodeling?
$25,000.
They were at 25.
Yeah, they'll now
We
be
never
increased to
had-
50.
And we never had anything in our ordinance with regard to building and remodeling? Because
Building and
this is-
remodeling was covered under the $25,000. It was just called construction.
Okay. And if it's under 25, or in the case of a building or remodeling, 50, you get, I think Gene said 3 or 4 bids, and you just go with the best one.
We go through the informal process,
The
yes.
informal process. Are the informal quotes, is that public record?
That is public record, you bet.
Thank you.
Further questions of Scott, Joe?
Scott, my only question was, in addition to what Kevin suggested, is there a minimum requirement for the number of bids that we need to receive?
Minimum requirement is set in our purchasing manual by 2.
Okay, so there is...
There is a minimum of 2.
Okay.
That let me answer that another way. We require a minimum of 2 bids. However, if we only get 1, we can accept the 1. However, if we don't feel that bid is competitive, we can send them back out again and try and get 2. Does that answer your question a little bit better?
Not really. You want to run that by me again?
Okay. The process is set up that we require a minimum of 2 bids, 2 quotes. Bids, quotes, same thing. However, if the bids come back in and there is only 1 bidder, we do have that option to say no to that bidder and say, no,
But you also have the option to say yes.
we do have the option to say yes also. You bet.
And do you do some preliminary estimates on what you expect those bids to come in at before the bids go out?
Yeah, we generally have an idea. We've done our market research on, say, a piece of equipment, and we know where our prices need to be.
Okay.
Further questions? Bob? Jameson?
Just for procedure purposes, what kind of checks and balance do you have in place that they can't break a project into 2 items and bid them separately? Is there some process that you use to prevent that?
Well, I'm generally dealing with equipment, and on the equipment side, it's pretty, cut and dry. On the construction side, generally a project is, for example, we're going to use a furnace replacement at a fire station. That's pretty straightforward. Those projects come in from the departments. Now, for them to break them up to prevent that from happening isn't possible because, they're going to have to go through the CIP process. So, okay.
Further questions? Bob Litz.
I'd just like to make a comment that $25,000 these days doesn't buy a lot when you're talking about construction, and that the bidding process and the time delays that could be involved here a lot of times aren't worth the time delay is not worth the money that you're going to spend on it. So I would encourage my colleagues to go ahead and pass it.
Further questions? If not, let's move to 26.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by revising Chapter 15.5 fees and Chapter 40 traffic.
Good evening, Randy Bartunik, Director of Public Parking. The proposed ordinance for the fees and fines contains several changes, which I'll try to summarize in two general areas. The first one is that we are proposing an increase to the amount charged for lease parking, and that'll be done at an amount of $5 per month. I do want to point out the fact that the last time we had a rate increase was in 2004, and that was at $2 per month. And actually, over the last 15 years, we've only raised rates a total of $7, which is just slightly above 1% over the last 15 years. Our revenues have kept a little bit higher pace than that, and that's only due to the fact that we've added about 1,155 additional lease parking customers to the parking system, and those additional lease parking customers have added the revenue for us to continue our operations. Currently, we're at 100% leased, so our ability to move forward by adding additional leases and generating more revenue is now capped. And another point I want to bring up is the fact that last summer we did hire Walker Parking Consultants, and they did a study for us. And through their study, they looked at two things. One, what will our 10-year parking demand and needs be? And the other one is if we need a ramp, how are we going to pay for it? And one of the things that they came back with is that we would need an additional 1,000 parking stalls over the next 10 years based on the projected growth. That number actually increases to 1,500 if the river ramp is removed. And currently, with our financial, the revenue and expenses, we are not even close to being able to provide or to pay for an additional ramp. Another item that Walker came back with regarding the rates is that they found that we're currently about $20 to $25 below market, and actually recommended a series of rate increases over the next 4 to 5 years to get up to the market level. The other item regarding the ordinance involves increasing the amount charged for various parking fines. The amount charged for overtime parking will remain unchanged. The amount charged for improper parking will increase from $5 to $15. Prohibited parking will increase from $10 to $15. Snow alerts will increase from $25 to $35. The penalty for paying late fees will also increase. One of the things that the parking board had recommended is that we actually have a step increase with relationship to the penalties. Currently, for example, an overtime parking fine, if it's not paid within 7 days, it increases to $15. What is being proposed here, that is, if it's not paid within 30 days, that fine will now go to $30, and if it's not paid after 60 days, it will actually increase to $60. I guess the other thing, just remind everyone, including the people that are viewing this, is that we are an enterprise fund, meaning that we're self-supporting, and these revenues will assist us in maintaining the necessary repair and maintenance activities, and also maintain compliance with our existing revenue bonds. It will also help us build a reserve fund to pay for future repair and maintenance needs, and also a reserve fund to pay for future parking ramps. The parking board has recommended approval of this, and I do have 3 of our members here tonight.
Question? Go ahead, Pat.
Randy, you said we're $20 to $25 below the market rate, and they've recommended a series of increases to catch us up, I imagine. What are those series of increases?
What Walker had recommended is that we actually have an increase to the lease parking at about $5 per month for the next 5 years. Now, that's something that next year we'll be visiting with the parking board and actually coming back to the city council with an ordinance revision again.
So basically, $5 a space per month
Per
and
month.
increase it $5 every
Correct.
year for 5
Rather than
years.
going in with a $20 or $25 increase all at once to do it over a series of 4 or 5 years.
Well, and I can understand maybe not doing it all at once, but I'm trying to think of why not maybe twice. And, you know, if we have such a documented need, we're going to be short of so many spaces, and we know that we're not even we're barely keeping our head above water on these parking facilities, let alone setting aside money to build new ones, and we need 1,000 more spaces, of why we're not at least trying to get to market a little bit quicker than 5 years.
And I guess part of it, again, that's consistent with what Walker Parking Consultants recommended, but also to kind of ease some of the pain or the bite to the downtown employees and businesses to carry it out. I agree and understand with what you're saying.
Okay, let's go Bob Jamison, then Kermit.
There was in the Walker study, there was some recommendations for using TIFs as a possible funding source for parking ramps. Has that been explored?
That's something when we move forward and get to the point of actually having enough funding internally to even pay for the operational costs, because that's my concern right now, as tight as things are. If a ramp was literally built today and gave to me, I would have concern of how we're going to pay to operate it as far as the snow removal, the electrical, and that part of it. So yes, we've talked about that. We've not looked too in-depth into that yet until we get to that point where we know we're going to have to actually build. But that is going to have to be one of the key parts of the financing package that we look at.
Okay, thank you.
Kermit?
Yeah, Randy, I guess I have a little concern about the harshness of the penalty for like a $5 ticket. You mentioned it would go from 5 to 15 after 7 days.
That is remaining unchanged, too. That's what it is today.
Right. But then we start getting into after a week, then it goes from 15 to 30, then after 30 days it goes to 60. I guess I'm concerned that, just a common person might get the ticket, and of course, I'm assuming the person wants to pay the ticket. They put it in their glove compartment, and then they forget about it. And so then a week goes by, goes up to 15, then a month goes by, goes up to 30, then 2 months, it's up to 60. Now, during that period of time, do we ever send a notice to that individual?
Absolutely. Besides the first ticket, which should serve as the notice, after 2 weeks or 10 days to 2 weeks, another letter is sent out. After 30 days, another letter is sent out. So they've got multiple notices. And I think this is something, and I don't want to speak for the parking board, but the parking board felt once you start getting beyond 30 and 60 days, there's a deliberate intent, because they've had many, many notices regarding that parking ticket. And so what this does is this provides another tool for us to help through the collections of that for those people that are just blowing it off. I will tell you right now, we've got about 9,700 tickets at the collection agency at a value of over $175,000. So when you're looking at a parking fund right now where we've got revenues projected slightly about $52,000 above expenses, $175,000 is a pretty significant impact. So what we're trying to do, again, is to provide those tools and those options to get people to pay on time.
So once again, if they do get up to the $60 figure, then they'll have been given 3 notices then
Yes, they've been
in the
given
mail.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Gerald?
Well, Randy, I'm glad you said something about that, because I get a little concerned when the responsible community people pay their tickets on time and the rest of us have to pay and make up the difference for those who ignore us for obviously days and days on end. But more importantly, I'm a little more concerned about the river ramp and the life expectancy of that. With proper maintenance, how long will that river ramp be in effect and be used as a...
Well, one of the things that we have to continue to do, and that's why getting our revenue built up is so critical on not only that ramp, but all of our ramps, is we need to be doing annual washdowns of the facilities. That cost alone on one ramp, we're looking at $40,000 to $50,000. We've not been able to do that for a number of years because the revenues have not been in place to us to do that. To answer your question, it's something that I would want to bring in the experts, and we need to bring them in probably every 5 years to do an inspection like you would on a bridge. My reasonable guess is that we could very easily get 10 to 15 years out of that ramp very easily with continued or normal maintenance activities.
That was my next question.
In good shape.
When's the last time that has been inspected?
I think that was in 2000.
1, I believe.
Kevin?
Randy, you indicated that over a course of a 30-day period, if the ticket remained unpaid, you issued the ticket, you write a letter in 2 weeks, you write another letter in 30 days.
Correct.
By that time, at your current cost, you've lost money.
We're not making money on some of these.
I suspect you're losing quite a bit. Will these new rates recover your costs of all those?
The reality on those 9,700, once we turn over them to collections, we're not going to make money.
I'm
on it.
talking
It's
about
not-
future ones.
We're not even doing this for the revenue aspect, although I agree with you on that. What we're trying to do is provide the tool for the collection agencies to provide the disincentive for people to not, or to just to blow it off. Because once we turn it over to the collection agency, they're going to take a bite out of that revenue right off the top. So again, raising these fees on the late fees is not even about the revenue that it may generate for us. It's where I'm hoping that it's going to do is to get people to avoid ignoring the ticket and paying it on time, which is where our revenue is going to increase at, if that makes sense.
Further questions? If not, let's go to 27.
First reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations for the development-driven Collector Street projects.
Gene Rowan, Orange Director of Finance. This is the appropriation of the funds from the special assessment bond anticipation notes and special assessment bonds that we are in the process right now of issuing. We need to actually appropriate the funds so we can disperse them when the contracts come due. They're looking at, well, they're actually working on the design right now, so that's the reason we're doing it now rather than waiting until spring or so.
Is there questions on 27? Okay, if not, is there a motion to set the hearing date for items 25, 26, and 27 for November 13th?
So moved.
Second, Jamison.
Costello move it, and Shu second it. Jamison? Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of setting the hearing date for November 13th for items 25, 26, 27, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
All members present voted. The hearing date has been set for items 25, 26, and 27 for November 13th. Item 28.
First reading, rezone an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of said city by rezoning property at 1/4 mile north of Sioux Falls from the AG Agricultural District to the RS2 Residential District. The Joint Planning Commission recommends approval.
This item is within our joint zoning jurisdiction with Minnehaha County. It's located about a half a mile north of the city limits of Sioux Falls along Cliff Avenue. It's part of the Sioux Gardens subdivision, which is a single-family rural residential area. Back in April of this year, there was a petition submitted to the city and county to vacate a portion of right-of-way that would allow for 2 vacant lots to be developed into single-family units and would allow them to meet the setback requirements of the rural residential zoning district. Because of concerns that we had at the city staff with trying to maintain that future right-of-way, the recommendation by the city council was to deny that vacation. And we said that we would go back and look at some other remedies. And this is the remedy that we've come back with in working with the property owners. By approving this rezoning, they will be allowed to replat those 2 lots and make them both buildable lots and meet the setback requirements of the revised zoning district. So we believe that this is a better solution to the potential development of those 2 vacant residential lots.
Questions of Mike on item 28? Bob Litz.
Mike, do they tie into the Renner sewer with these lots?
Yes. I believe they're part of the Renner Sanitary District.
Further questions of Mike on item number 28? Not, is there a motion to set the hearing date for November 19th for the joint City Council Minnehaha County Commission meeting on item 28?
So moved, Litz.
Let's move second.
Second, Benega.
Benega seconded. All in favor of that motion, set the hearing date, will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninger.
Yes.
The hearing date has been set for November 19th for the joint City, County, and Minnehaha County Commission meeting for item 2880. Item 29.
Deferred action, a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 2007-08-03 at 60th Street North.
This annexation petition has been withdrawn by the applicant.
It will be noted that item 29 has been withdrawn by the applicant. Item 30.
Preliminary subdivision plan 2007-09-06, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Wild Meadows Addition, southeast corner of Dubuque Avenue and Madison Street. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This is approximately 75 acres of land area that ties in with the discussion that we had previously tonight on the council agenda. And this shows the proposed layout of the streets and lots for the residential development on this property. And as I said earlier, we have been working with this property owner on the street layout. It does conform to our major street plan. It does show two connections going west to Dubuque Avenue that would extend from Madison down to 6th Street. It also shows a future connection to the east, which will connect to a north-south street from Madison down to 6th Street and then down to Highline Avenue. So we are working with not only this property owner, but also the adjacent property owner to try to deal with providing alternative street network to try to address some of the concerns that you've heard tonight from the property owners along Dubuque Avenue and along Foss Avenue. This is going to be primarily single-family residential, and which will be the lowest traffic generator. At the south end, we did already approve some rezoning for future apartments, which will access directly onto 6th Street. This does meet all the city requirements and has been recommended for approval by the City Planning Commission.
Questions of Mike on item number 30, Kermit?
Yeah, Mike, I think I know where the park's going to be, but can you point that out?
Right there.
Okay.
Further questions of Mike on item number 30? Others that wish to address the council on item number 30? Is there, okay, come forward, give your name and address again, please.
James Moore, 708 North Dubuque. And my concern is the connection with Madison Street, which is already in the finishing stages. There's not connected yet, but it's, almost done. And I'm worried about the speed of the traffic going down Dubuque Avenue, since that is quite a distance from Madison all the way down to 6th Avenue, and the tendency for people to lose track of of what they're doing and speeding by my property and other properties. And if there's maybe an issue where something could be, such as water drainage across there, to slow traffic down like it's been done in other areas. That's my concern, is just the speed of the traffic going to Walmart and the other business areas down there, and basically the whole northeast side and Brandon using that as access to until Highway 100 is through. That will be the major access to that business area.
Questions, James? Thank you very much. Others that wish to address the council on item number 30? Can you come forward, name and address again, please?
Okay, Fred O'Neill, 316 Foss. So part of that property to the east there isn't even developed yet? I mean, right there, that blank spot. That isn't part of the wildflower thing?
No, it isn't.
So that's why all the weeds are growing there and nobody mows. And we've called the city, and of course it isn't city, it's county. And they come out and made an attempt this summer and knocked down a little bit of it, but we got enough crops growing out there with weeds that the rest of us are going to pay a fortune trying to keep Scott Lawn Company coming out and keeping weeds out of our yard. So I thought that whole thing was the development. So we haven't even got near trying to get Highline Road through. So it's going to be a long time before.
Mike, do you want to address that for Fred?
Can we go back to the aerial photo? Do you have that handy? The property directly to the east of this Wild Meadows, we have been in contact with the property owner. There has been some sketch plans laid out of it, and I don't expect that it's going to start developing immediately, but we are going to be working with them to make that street connection when that does get brought in for approval in the future. So again, that's part of our major street plan. As far as the weeds or the vegetation, if there's some issues there, then we can certainly get, I did take these gentlemen's names and addresses and phone numbers, and so I told them that I would continue to work with them and meet with them and see if we can try to address these concerns, both short-term and long-term, that they brought up tonight.
Fred wants to come up.
Okay, then what is it zoned for? I thought it was, like I said, I assumed it was all housing in there. So now that it's blank, who owns it and what's it zoned for?
Mike?
That property is not currently in the city limits, and so it would have to go through a rezoning. But it is planned for, as part of the South Dakota Highway 100 corridor, it is going to be planned for probably a combination of residential, multifamily, and then probably some commercial development as you get down towards 6th Street and along Highway 100. But at this point, we haven't been asked to approve any development plans for it yet.
Who owns it? Is it still Foss? There's a Costco.
Further questions on item number 30? Is further discussion? Is there a motion?
Move for approval, Benninger.
Benninger moves. Is there a second?
I second that, Knutson.
Knutson seconds. Further comments on the motion to approve item 30? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmembers Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninger.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 30 has been approved 8-0. Item 31.
A resolution amending the future land use map as part of the Sioux Falls 2015 Growth Management Plan, petition number 2007-08-16, at northwest corner of Benson Road and Marion Road, from an allocation of future single-family and multifamily residential land uses to an allocation of commercial, office, institutional, multifamily, and single-family future land uses. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
This property is just under 160 acres in size. It is on the west side of North Marion Road and on the north side of West Benson Road. Van Busker Companies is the owner and developer of this property. As we've worked with them on amending our land use plan, there's two issues that have come up in recent months and within the past couple of years. One of those is our ongoing attempt to work with our transportation network and try to design our arterial corridors so that they have the traffic capability that they're designed for. And one of the ways that we're doing that is by having our collector streets intersect the arterial streets at the quarter-mile points. So by doing that, it changes the character of how we incorporate land use and our transportation network. Because in the old days, you could have driveways and access points fairly close to the intersection of arterial streets. And now we're trying to move away from that and pushing those access points back to the quarter section line. So that gives us some opportunity to look at some different concepts for land use development. And this is one of the first areas that we're trying to work on that concept with the Van Busker Company folks. In this particular case, the land use that's being recommended tonight shows that there'll be approximately 73 acres of single-family residential on the northwest area of the site. Up in the northeast corner will be approximately 24 acres of medium-density residential, which could be townhomes, it could be twin homes, and it could be multifamily. On the southwest corner is an area that's proposed for office and institutional, and looking at different types of development that might be compatible with that area. And then in the corner, which is the largest area shown in red, according to our land use plan, it would show it as all future commercial, about 40 acres. And the reason that we came up with that geographical boundary is that it's bounded by the future Collector Street that would intersect both Marion and Benson Road. By showing it tonight as future commercial, we're not proposing or expecting that it's all going to develop as commercial. What we're working with the developer on is what we call a mixed-use concept, so that we could have combinations of multifamily, office, and residential, as well as commercial, in a planned mixed-use development plan for this particular corner. And the way that this is going to work in the future is that we'll probably zone this corner into a planned development and allow the mixed uses to occur. So again, I know that some people have looked at this and said, why would the city be zoning or showing future 40 acres of commercial development? And that's really not the intent. But with our land use categories, this is the only option that we have at this point. So we will come back and you'll see this in the future with a mixed-use concept that we'll be working with the developers on. So that's a kind of a long explanation, but it's a concept that we'll see here and that we're going to be looking at in other future new arterial street areas of the city boundaries. Kermit.
Yeah, Mike, is the applicant here tonight?
Yes.
Can I ask him a question?
Good evening. Steve Van Buskirk, 5101 South Nevada Avenue.
Steve, Mike has given a presentation on what the planning department wants to do with your property. Well, what do you think about this?
We've been working hand in hand. So, I mean, we've been trying to work out the details of this. This is the first step with the major land use amendment. That's kind of a new process here in the last year or so. So the next step, we'll be going back to the Planning Commission. In that red area, we're going to come back with a planned development. But that's about our only option that we've got on how to actually present the zoning, which is coming next. That's just the amendment. So we're working out the details. It brings up its own issues with these quarter-mile access points. We've only the 350-foot corner, full commercial corner. Those are those days are gone. We want full interchanges at quarter miles. And maybe a right in, right out between the quarter mile and the section line roads. So I think you're going to see a lot of this. So I think it's been a unique circumstance because it's all new. So we're in favor of this. We're working.
Yeah, I mean, that's my concern, that here we're having some new planning principles introduced here, and I'm not quite sure what developers really think about these new concepts coming from the planning department.
It's like all changes. You have to start thinking a little bit more. So I mean, but it's it's new, and I think with every change there's new opportunities too. So I think if the idea is to get these arterial streets and get the traffic moving faster, this is a natural outfall of it. We'll know 20 years from now how it all works out.
I guess my concern is that new planning principles like this, are requiring more control over your private property, and I'm just very, very concerned about this. This is the beginning of more controls, basically.
Further questions?
Yes. More controls. Yes. More controls.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Further questions, Kevin?
Steve, this is, from the looks of it, pretty wide open right now. You've got development to the east. But what if everybody just went out there, and I'm sure you don't own all this property around you. What if every developer, every landowner out there just went out, did just exactly what he or her she pleased? Would you have somewhat of a problem there?
On all the corners, I think. No, I mean it's that's where we're heading, and we've seen the bubble map. I don't know if you've seen that and how the corners work in arterial 1s and arterial 2 streets, What we're trying to do is create a neighborhood out there. You go out northwest, we've made a tremendous investment in sanitary sewer out there. We've got new and exciting things going on with the University Center and some new retail opportunities happening out there. But we need these neighborhood services. And the thing is, with these street projects, the streets are going to get wider. They're going to have medians, limited access. Well, the traffic is going to get faster by design. So our opinion as a developer, and as shared with the city, also the city planners, people aren't going to want to cross these streets as much as they have in the past because the higher traffic. So what we're trying to do is get those neighborhood services on the inside the subdivision, so to speak, and have a mix of office and commercial. This is going to be labeled an employment center, but we'll have a little bit of retail. We'll have the services, offices. We're going to mix in some multifamily in there. You'll see when the plan development comes back, it shows no more than 50% commercial on the plan development, and that's actually going to Planning Commission here in a couple days. So we're anticipating that. We've got in here in this area, in the big red area, we've got a detention pond that we need to build. We're looking at how to try to integrate that detention pond within the design rather than doing the detention pond block that you've seen before. We can do an extended detention basin and integrate it into the design, the live, work, play concept of life. North of our property, we've got, the check processing facility. The developer up there we've worked with hand in hand with that owns that yellow up above us to the north, and they're looking more of development foundation, industrial park type things. So we need to transition from that, down into a residential neighborhood. So we're trying to introduce those concepts in there also. So, basically it's making it all market driven. The market's going to tell us what they want. After we get it open, and we need to present some concept plans to them and show them what we think is the best way to go as far as layouts, but we don't want to be tied to, hardcore zoning boundaries. We want to mix all those things together, and that's the whole intent of this new zoning.
So the point to be made here is, rather than just mindless regulations, it's actually working with developers to create safe communities, desirable communities.
And walking neighborhoods, and yes, I believe that's what the desire is.
Bob Jameson and then Bob Litz.
Steve, one of the things that other communities, I'm sure, have done this type thing in the past, and typically a development like this is going to move a gas station off the corner, and it'll be a quarter mile down from the corner. But how have other cities addressed this? You've been involved in the development business. What are they doing?
Well, would you? Mike would probably be more adept at talking towards what some of the other cities. We've seen some. Like when we did our bridges project, 180th and Dodge down in Omaha, which I don't know if you've ever been down there, but they built one of those Shield super centers, which we've got here in town. But we've been down there, we've looked through that and see how that works. But these. Not to say that we're going to have a Shield super center out here, but it's that kind of concept. Those lifestyle centers that you've been hearing about for quite some time now. They're all going to take their own nature as they go along. But I think that's the general idea. So we've seen that. I haven't been to it, but there's one up in Woodbury, I believe, up in Minneapolis, which I've seen a lot of pictures of because we used it as a planning process. Our architect's been up there a lot. Showed us the pictures, which helped us along with our design, like at the Bridges project, and he's on our design team on this too. So we're going to be, trying to introduce these concept of, live, work, play, lifestyle centers, mixed use. They're all catchphrases, but you're trying to get that feeling of bringing it all together and get the neighborhood. We're not going to replace downtown Sioux Falls. It's not going to happen. We're not going to have that kind of density, but you want to be able to try to mix these things together so we can create a neighborhood out of it. And that's what we see out in the Northwest. There's a tremendous opportunity out there. It's going to grow quickly. You got another interchange coming. We've got the university and other retailing things coming along. There's housing started out there, but it's not very extensive yet. So you need, retail needs housing, but housing needs retail in this case also. I mean, there's just not any services up there. If you want to go to a gas station or a grocery store up there, you got to drive right now. You know, all that's going to be changing in the next few years. And I think that's what, you know, what we're trying to do up here also, is try to promote the neighborhood growth and try to bring it all along together, because we need it all. So it's been a little bit different in some of our other neighborhoods where we've had some of that infrastructure in there already.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Further questions?
The Planning Commission gave me the hook, so you got to be cautious. I have long answers.
Further, Carmen?
Yeah, I got a question for Mike here. Out of the 156.8 acres, is the city going to require a park there or not?
This particular area, there is a future neighborhood park site, but it's not within the confines of this area.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Litz?
So I just wanted to thank Steve for pointing out that the city's investment in the infrastructure is paying off, and that it's for development out there. And then, Mike, I had a couple of questions. One of them was, there's a school that's supposed to go in somewhere in this year, and I would like to know when and where that is, as well as the Marion Road interchange up at Interstate 90. I can't recall when that's supposed to go in as well.
Okay, the school site that we're working on would be south of Madison Street, so it'd be south of here a mile, and it's on the west side of Marion Road. That would be within the Sioux Falls School District. And then the Marion Road interchange is a 2008-2009 DOT project that will connect up to Interstate 90 with a full interchange.
Further questions of Steve or Mike? Not, thank you very much. Others wish to address council item number 31? Not. Is there a motion by the council?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Lutz seconded. Further comments? I see no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Jamison,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes. All members present voted. Item 31 has been approved 8-0. Item 32.
A resolution amending the 2007-2011 capital program by adding the development-driven collector streets project.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Shannon Austin, Public Works Engineering. This resolution basically goes hand in hand with the supplemental ordinance that was described to you earlier this evening by the Finance Director. All it's doing is creating a new CIP project in the engineering program called Development-Driven Collector Streets. This project would run on the same process as our current project that we have in our program. That's for arterial streets. The petitioners or the adjacent landowners would submit a petition to the City of Sioux Falls. We would evaluate, rank, and then go ahead and bond for those collector streets to be constructed. Currently, right now, we have about 8 or 9 petitions that we are considering for construction in 2008, and this resolution, along with the supplemental ordinance, would allow us to get started on design and get those projects built next year. The CIP committee is recommending approval of this resolution.
Questions of Shannon on item number 32? Bob James.
Do you happen to have those streets' names in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Because I think the general public might like to know what's being proposed for next year.
Sure, absolutely. We currently have around 8 projects, basically all over the City of Sioux Falls. North Career Avenue, which is from Benson Road down to Tickman Avenue, that's in the northwest part of the city. We have 2 petitions on Bonson Avenue, on North Bonson Avenue from Rice Street down to 3rd Street, which is by our new Oakview Library. And then we also have a South Bonson Avenue from Mission Street down to 57th Street. We would do that one in coordination with our 57th Street project next year. Valley View Road from 12th Street to 16th Street. A lot of you folks that are on the west side have heard from our Collector Street and traffic calming folks on 16th Street. This would actually realign 12th Street, or would realign Valley View Road between 12th and 16th Street. Grant Street Extension, this is over by the new Walmart and off of Foss Avenue. It extends from Foss Avenue to the east, or excuse me, to the west, about 2 or 3 blocks. Windswept Place is a private drive off of, or a public street off of 85th Street. South of 85th Street, it only goes for about 300 feet. and it's to the west of Western Avenue. Hillcrest Avenue, which is on the northeast part of the city, an industrial park, from 54th Street down to 57th Street north. Van Epps Avenue, which is off of Benson Avenue, and it extends from Benson down to about 300 feet north. 300 feet to the south. And then we did have an alley, a petition for an alley in the vicinity of Prairie Avenue and Brookings Street. So there's about 9 projects that are currently being considered right now. There's 2 or 3 of them that we do think the petitioners may want to end up building themselves. Well, we do have a couple of other projects that we could bring up and consider for consideration for construction.
Thank you. Further questions of Shannon on item number 32? Others that wish to address the council on item number 32? If not, is there a motion?
So moved, Jamison.
Jamison moved. Second?
Second, Litz.
Litz seconded. Further comments on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve item 32 will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes. All members present voted. Item 32 has been approved 8-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Kavanaugh, is there a second?
Second. Costello.
Costello seconded. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Brown,
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes. We stand adjourned.